All right, we are making eggplant parm. Apparently that is going to trigger or induce labor within 48 hours. We'll see. Backwoods egg parm from my prego wifey. Surprised. Look at that.
Alrighty. There it is. See the pregnant belly? Oh yes. Let us.
What would you call this method? So we have too much frozen water in our 150-gallon tank to just manhandle it. So we're just ratchet strapping it up, getting filled in before we have spring breakup over here. Hey babe, what you doing?
Filling up the pool for the baby.
What a beautiful day. You ready to be a big sister? Huh? See them? I just want to jump and play in the pool.
I'd let you in it if I knew you weren't going to pee in it. Alright, so I just took my shower and I whipped up the Midwife's Brew. I'm gonna be taking this here. I'm supposed to consume it in 30 minutes and then we'll see if it stimulates labor or not. This is not necessarily the plan or the route that I was planning on going for this birth, but certain circumstances have brought me to resulting in doing this. So I've come to peace with it for this labor, for these circumstances, and we'll see how it goes. I obviously naturally would desire for my body just to naturally go into labor, and I don't have to drink any castor oil potion. So inside here I have some apricot juice, castor oil, almond butter, and some lemon tea. So the idea is it's supposed to be a lot less intense than taking just straight castor oil. This will actually like stick to your intestines, where the castor oil will just like run right through you, and you can end up on the toilet a lot, vomiting, nauseous. So we'll see what my experience is like with this. In the beautiful, perfect world, I wouldn't have to take this, but again, I have peace with it for this labor given these circumstances. So we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna just take one sip. I'm not taking this for like another 10 minutes. Just I'm giving myself all the time that I need. I'm supposed to drink it within a half hour, but I was gonna take it at 2. So that means I got 10 minutes. I'm giving myself 10 minutes, but I'm kind of curious. I'm gonna take a sip for you guys. I mean, not too bad, but it's starting to settle, so I'm gonna have to shake it and drink it. But personally, it's not very bad. I took this whole thing down basically in like a minute, so I ain't waiting the full 30 minutes, guys. I'm just chugging it and getting it down. No sense in drawing it out. See how this settles in my stomach. Yeah, might be interesting. Phew. One more guzzle. Honestly, not bad. Not bad at all. We'll see what I think when it comes out the other end. Ugh.
Hey buddy, you trying to open your eyes? Oh, is it so bright? Open your eyes. Come open your eyes, buddy.
So it's been a crazy, eventful week. Starting out, well, Sunday. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a little bit of a backstory. I was coming up on, well, actually, I was like 5 days past my due date, and there was some certain circumstances which brought me to this weekend really wanting to kind of try to get things moving. So what I was doing, I was bouncing on the yoga ball, I was trying to eat some spicy foods to see if I could trigger any kind of labor, and nothing was happening and nothing was occurring, and I was getting some contractions here and there, and typically just being 40 weeks and 5 days. Hey buddy, you gonna wake up and join us? Alright, you gonna join us? Alright, had to make a show. Surprise, I had the baby. So I was like 40 weeks and 5 days, and I really wasn't necessarily feeling like overly antsy to go into labor. I just kind of knew that when my body was naturally ready that I would go into labor. But we came upon some special circumstances with this go round that brought me to kind of feel like, all right, I need to get things rolling. So, hey bud. So Sunday morning I woke up and all of a sudden I just had some peace and clarity that I was going to take the Midwife's Brew. I was kind of honestly getting just more like anxious or kind of frustrated that I wasn't naturally going into labor, and so I was just like, you know what, I just have peace over it. With this birth, I'm gonna try the castor oil, which is typically a surefire for most women to go into labor. But I did not just straight up drink castor oil. I did the Midwife's Brew, which is 2 tablespoons of almond butter, 2 tablespoons of castor oil, some apricot juice, and some lemon tea. And you drink that down, and you're supposed to drink it down within a half hour, and typically it'll put you into labor within 48 hours. But according to a lot of people's testimonies online, it will likely put you into labor a lot sooner than 48 hours. So I already, taking this drink, I had anticipated there was a good chance I was going to go into labor that night. And with having a home birth, there is a lot to prep and prepare for. So in that regards, having a good idea that the likelihood I was going to go into labor that night was actually kind of helpful. We were able to get a lot of things organized and ready for the labor, and thank goodness we did, because when things happened, they happened really fast. So that day for prepping and preparing, we were able to fill up the pool because I wanted to be able to do a water birth, or at least have the option to do it. I really didn't have any expectation of having the child in there, but I just wanted it to be an available option for me. And so we were able to fill the pool, just kind of like have the house pretty cleaned, our materials organized, and there's supplies and things that I need to have on hand for the labor. And so I was able to guarantee that I had that all there on hand. So I ended up taking the Midwife's Brew 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday, and I just chugged it. I was like, no sense in dragging it out for a half hour. I personally thought it wasn't that bad, so I chugged it down, and I didn't really have any contractions. Like maybe starting around like 6:30, I had just a couple, but like that wasn't anything to really draw any alarming attention, because I've had that over the past like 3 or 4 days. So I really wasn't expecting anything, or that really didn't draw any like suspicions for me, because I've seen that over the course of the last few days. But all of a sudden at 8 o'clock, like 8 o'clock that night, came home, Sayla was tired, ready to go to bed, so we put her in for bed, and she instantly fell asleep, and my contractions started right away. And Joey was running around, I think just taking care of some last minute evening chores, milking goats, and my contractions started, and I right away was starting to like have to breathe through my contractions, and so they were definitely a little bit more intense, and I was started to clock them, and right away they were clocking at 5 minutes apart, which is pretty crazy. And so when that started occurring to me, that instantly drew some like ahas for me, that like, okay, this is probably it. So I like notified Joey. I was pacing and kind of walking through my contractions, and I tracked probably 5 of them at 5 minutes apart before I was like, all right, we should probably notify my midwife so she's aware. And so we called her, and I had a hard time even just having the conversation with her, because I was contracting pretty heavily just through our phone conversation. And she packed up her bags and came our way right away. And man, it was all such a blur. It went by so fast. It was so fast. It really was fast. So I had the yoga ball blown up, and that's where I like contracted for like probably, I don't know, an hour. And my midwife, she had like probably an hour and a half travel just to get here, maybe a little bit longer, I don't know. And all of a sudden it was probably around like 9:30, a little bit before 9:30, maybe 9 o'clock, and I started to feel the urge to push, and I knew I was at the home stretch for this baby, and which is wild because I had only been like an hour of laboring. And so I had gotten into the pool, and Joey had asked me if he thought it was necessary to call the midwife to see if she could get here any sooner. And at that point in the game, I could already feel the head, and I was like, no, at this point, if she gets here, she gets here. If she doesn't, she doesn't. I remember thinking kind of in my mind, I'm like, it'd be kind of cool if she didn't get here, just because it would be like, oh, wow, we just had a birth at home without a midwife, unassisted completely. We considered the idea in our mind, honestly, with this birth, but we did go with the midwife. And so, needless to say, the midwife made it just in time to catch the baby. Literally, she walks in the door and I'm like, I can feel the head is coming, and she gets here and she gets right down to business. And literally she caught the baby just as it was born, and that in total it was from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Baby was born here, happy and healthy in this home. So it was pretty wild, not gonna lie. That was pretty crazy. Obviously, like, the midwife brew can have a different effect on everybody, and if I were to have taken it again, I could totally have a different experience. But for this one, it was, wow, it was very, very effective, and it just brought labor straight to the point. It didn't necessarily make it more intense or anything. All I experienced was the last leg of labor, which is going to be intense for any woman. So yeah, honestly, it was wild, but we did it. We had a baby born here on the homestead, off grid, in our ever developing home that is very far from finished. But honestly, I think it's just the joys and beauty of life right there. It's raw, it's real. Come into this world, baby, and join us for this adventure. I think one thing that after experiencing what we experienced with Selah during the first birth, and ending up in the hospital, in the NICU, we basically encountered all the things we didn't imagine. It brought me into this birth with almost no expectation of, you know, just because I want it this way or would desire for it to be a certain way. I came into it very open, but I also had complete knowing that my body was going to be able to do what it needed to do. And so never in that moment of like, oh no, midwife may not be here, may not make it, I was just completely at peace, not anxious at all. So I think that alone was just such a godsend through the crazy circumstances of the baby arrival. Anyways, guys, that is a very brief kind of lowdown of the birth, but it's, yeah, it was very empowering for us. I think for us as a family unit. Selah woke up at the very end and was looking down from the balcony, and we got to bring her down just in time for the birth of the child, and she got to witness it all. So it was quite special for all of us, I would say. Whether she remembers it or not is, well, probably not very likely, but it was really an amazing experience. Hey, buddy. Meet little Rory. Hey. Oh, yes, your little brother. You saying hi?
They like to lay their eggs in the back of the goat shelter. So then you have to crawl on your hands and knees to the back of the goat shelter. All the way to the back. Ridiculous. But that's a lot of eggs. So, not complaining about that, I guess. Army crawl back out. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Thank you. Thank you much. Thank y'all. I'll be here all week. Back to steaming my wife's placenta. We're encapsulating her placenta for supplementation for her. Not me, just her. To be clear. We're now dehydrating placenta. That's an umbilical cord. Not a finger. Wow. 2 trays worth. And we're going to dehydrate it for 8 hours before we encapsulate. That smell. I think those hard pieces are the umbilical cord. I just never ground up.